And how
This is KTN News.
NTSA again may still come on the spot because somehow it is touched on them, but scrupulous dealers here using very shocking tricks.
Yes, since Mzungu taught us the idea of using cars, especially for going to work and for business and so on and so forth, it looks like this has become one very sought-after commodity. And businessmen know that every time you import a car, you're definitely going to make some money. You know, some time back I bought a car and I was thinking this guy is making like 200,000 shillings as markup. Only to realize later, upon investigation, that the guy had taken almost 800,000 shillings from me.
Wow,
so
a huge profit.
It's a huge profit, and it has a number of cartels in it. It deals with a number of things. So, on the one hand, there is those processes that we have at customs, which are supposed to make sure that the person who claims they imported this car are actually the same people who are claiming that they imported it. But you see, in most cases, some of these fellows who want to avoid their names being on those cars for various reasons would find all manner of ways to do it. I do not know why. They must look for dead people to import cars in their names. However, I will try to understand, probably do some research on this question. What would it mean if you used somebody who's alive to import it, and so on and so forth? However, there is a job well cut out by CS Matiang'i. You know that the docket for NTSA was recently moved to the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government through Executive Order number 2 of 2019. Right. And so the president, I'm sure, was keen on fixing the problems that we have with respect to our transport system, and this is, I believe, one of those things.
All right, Senator Irungu Kangata, of course, a worrying trend then, especially given the details of the recent terrorist attack that we had. Cars, of course, do become a tool that can be used. Again, even if we reflect and look at when the U.S. Embassy was blown in Nairobi, they used a vehicle. So vehicles really can become a very easy target for terrorists to also use. But just highlighting on the fact that this particular racket hopefully is going to be, we get to the bottom of it.
Yes, indeed. We need to urge CS Matiang'i to take action against officials in NTSA. It appears there's a lot of corruption in that institution, in particular the Department of Motor Vehicle Registration. I'm told some of the directors in that parastatus are swimming in billions of money. Some of them live in a very lavish life, notwithstanding their salaries. And therefore, the government needs to take a more proactive action to investigate any corruption in NTSA. And, well, terrorism is bad, but the only positive thing that is coming out of it is that we are now being compelled to have a relook at some of the institutions that manage our country, because it is true. You go to NTSA, you find a lot of people queuing. You wonder, why is it that they are queuing, whereas these services ought to be handled by some other platforms like e-Citizen. If you want to get a license, you should go to over the internet. You don't have to go to NTSA and queue. So government needs to understand whether there are some people who sabotage some services in NTSA so that they continue extorting money from wananchi.
All right.
So it is very positive that government is now thinking of how it can overhaul that institution.
Okay, talking about making lucrative money, there's also an interesting story on page 11, which would border on doctors taking advantage of patients. And this is highlighting why doctors order unnecessary tests. And apparently, private practitioners